All right, buckle up, everyone, because today's deep dive is going to take us straight into the heart of history.
Oh, I love when you say that.
I know, right? So we're going back to March 1st, 2023. Picture this, the Oval Office.
Okay, Oval Office, I'm there.
President Trump is meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, and of course his own VP, Vance, is there too.
High stakes meeting.
Totally. But here's the kicker. We've got the full, unedited C-SPAN video of this thing.
Like the raw, uncut footage.
Exactly. No news filters, no spin, just pure, unadulterated political theater.
This is gold. We can analyze every word, every gesture, every little eyebrow raise. It's like being a fly on the wall.
Exactly. So today's mission, what can we learn from this unfiltered view? What did the news miss? What really went down in that room?
Well, let's dive right in, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, so picture the scene is set, right? Trump welcomes Zelensky, all smiles and handshakes, but you can practically hear the history between them. You know, all those phone calls, the impeachment drama, it's all there, lurking beneath the surface.
Oh, absolutely. The tension is palpable.
Totally. And Trump, he starts talking about this fair deal to end the war. Sounds promising on the surface, right?
Yeah, until you hear the next part.
Right. He casually mentions that part of the deal involves the U.S. getting access to, wait for it, Ukraine's rare earth mineral reserves.
Boom. Mic drop moment. Did you see that coming? I know I didn't.
It totally changes the game. Suddenly, it's not just about peace. It's about resources, strategy, economics. These minerals, they're essential for all kinds of tech, our phones, electric cars, military equipment. It's huge.
It's a complete game changer. So, okay, put yourself in Zelensky's shoes here. His country is literally under attack. Bombs are falling. People are dying. What's his priority?
He doesn't beat around the bush. He wants real security guarantees. And the way he says it, it's powerful. He talks about our people, our children. It's personal, it's urgent, it's desperate. You can feel the weight of the situation on him.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
And there's this stark contrast, right? Trump's all about deals, negotiations, while Zelensky's just trying to ensure his country's survival.
Right. And it's not just talk either. Zelensky actually makes this incredible offer, Ukrainian drone technology shared with the U.S., in exchange for
advanced air defense systems.
Exactly. Like he's putting everything on the table here.
Yeah.
And then to really drive home the point, he shows some pretty chilling images of Ukrainian prisoners of war in Russia.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
It's like a brief but powerful glimpse into the real horror of what's happening.
Yeah, heavy stuff. It feels like a very calculated move, though, you know?
I see what you mean.
It's like he's trying to bridge that gap between the war over there and the impact over here. Those images, that tech offer, it's all about showing the U.S. just how valuable Ukraine is as an ally.
That makes a lot of sense. So then we get to the money part of the conversation, and things get a little awkward. Trump dances around specifics when it comes to U.S. financial contributions, but then his eyes light up when he talks about the potential revenue from those rare earth minerals. It's quite a shift.
Yeah, I mean, it raises a big question, doesn't it? Is this about peace for Ukraine or profit for the U.S.? It's a tension that runs through the entire meeting, I think.
It's definitely something to think about. And then there's this moment, it's a bit out of left field, but a reporter asks Trump about his historical aspirations.
Historical aspirations?
Yeah, like how he sees his legacy, And Trump, he doesn't hesitate. He compares himself to Washington and Lincoln.
Wow, bold move.
Right. And he keeps circling back to the whole witch hunt, the impeachment inquiry. It seems like to him, surviving that ordeal is equivalent to what Zelensky's going through now.
That's a really interesting point. It highlights how differently they frame hardship.
Definitely. And speaking of framing, there's this kind of funny but also kind of sad exchange about Zelensky's clothes.
The clothes. What was wrong with his clothes?
Nothing, really. But a reporter, kind of cluelessly, asked why he's not wearing a suit. And Zelensky, he just says, deadpan, I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Oh, wow. That's pretty poignant.
It is, right. And it reveals so much about his mindset. Survival is the priority, not appearances. Everything else is secondary until the fighting stops.
Absolutely. It's like a window into his world.
Okay, so then we get into the real nitty-gritty of the negotiations. Military aid, security guarantees, the whole shebang. And Trump, he keeps hammering on that minerals deal like it's the key to everything.
It's almost like his whole strategy hinges on it, right? Like, we help you, you give us the minerals, and that keeps the peace.
Right. But is it really that simple?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Exactly. And Zelensky, he's not just nodding along, he's pushing back. He wants those security guarantees in writing, ironclad, U.S.-backed, no wiggle room. He even drops this line, his rule of war, the aggressor must pay for the damages.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement.
It is. He's drawing a line in the sand. He's not interested in empty promises or quick fixes. He wants real accountability, and he wants the U.S. fully committed, not just dipping a toe in the water.
So much tension.
And this is where this whole ocean metaphor comes in, right? Both Trump and Zelensky use it at different points, talking about the distance between the U.S. and the conflict.
The whole "it's happening over there" argument.
Yeah, exactly. But Zelensky, he's like, hold up a minute. Russian aggression isn't going to be contained by an ocean. This affects everyone.
He's basically saying, this is your fight too, America, whether you like it or not.
Exactly. And you know what that leads to?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
One of the most tense moments of the entire meeting.
Spill a tea.
Okay, so picture this. Vice President Vance and Zelensky are going head to head. Accusations are flying, tempers are flaring. It's getting heated.
Oh, man, you've got to be kidding me.
I'm not. It's intense. You have Zelensky, whose country is literally being invaded, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Vance, who maybe he feels like he needs to maintain a certain image, a certain level of decorum. It's a clash of personalities, for sure.
No wonder things got heated. I bet you could cut the tension with a knife.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And then Vance, he hits Zelensky with this comment about Obama providing sheets while Trump provided javelins.
Ooh, shots fired.
Right. It's such a stark contrast. Defensive versus offensive aid. It highlights just how much is riding on this meeting for Zelensky. He needs more than just blankets. He needs the weapons to fight back.
This is so much more than a polite diplomatic meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
we're seeing the real complexities here. This isn't just some simple negotiation. It's a clash of personalities, ideologies, national interests, everything.
It's like a political pressure cooker.
Exactly. And there's so much more to unpack. We'll dive deeper into the emotional undercurrents and the strategic maneuvering in part 2. Okay, so picking up where we left off, you can practically feel the frustration building from Zelensky's side.
Yeah, you can tell he's getting impatient.
Right.
Right?
Like he's hitting a wall,
Definitely.
He keeps trying to emphasize the urgency, the human cost of this war, the sheer scale of the devastation. I mean, he even uses this really powerful image. He compares Ukraine to a line of defense for the whole of Europe.
Oh, wow. That's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is, right?
If Ukraine falls, who's next?
Exactly. And then he makes this comment about how they've had to stay strong from the very beginning, almost like a subtle dig at the U.S.,
Oh, definitely. Like, where were you guys when we needed you most?
Exactly. And it reveals a lot about the resentment that's been simmering under the surface,
Yeah, like they felt abandoned in the early days of the war.
And that whole sheets versus javelins comparison that Vance brought up, it really drives that point home.
Oh, absolutely. It's symbolic of that shift in U.S. policy, right?
From hesitant to more directly involved.
But for Zelensky, it's still not enough.
Not even close.
He needs those security guarantees, that ironclad commitment from the U.S.
And this is where that disconnect becomes so clear. It's like Trump is almost hesitant.
Yeah, like he's waiting for Zelensky to show more gratitude for what they're already doing.
Right. It's like, dude, your country's being invaded. What more do you want?
It creates this really uncomfortable power dynamic, doesn't it?
It doesn't. It's not just about the military aid either. Zelensky also talks about the need for financial help to rebuild.
Yeah, the economic recovery.
He mentions that Russia seized billions in Ukrainian assets, and he wants to use that money to help his people.
Makes sense.
It speaks volumes about where his focus is. He's fighting for his people's present and their future. But Trump, he seems stuck on the transactional aspect of it, all the minerals, the potential profits.
It's like they're speaking two different languages.
And that tension, it just keeps escalating. Remember that heated moment between Zelensky and Vance?
Oh, yeah, when Vance basically accused Zelensky of being ungrateful.
And Zelensky didn't hold back either. He fired right back, defending his country's sacrifices.
It's like two worlds colliding, right?
Exactly. Zelensky is in survival mode, and Vance is worried about diplomatic decorum and appearances.
That room was electric.
It makes you wonder if someone like Vance can really grasp what it's like to be in Zelensky's shoes,
It highlights the human element in all of this, right?
Totally, how personal experiences and perceptions shape these high-stakes negotiations.
Oh, for sure. And just when you think things can't get any weirder, Trump throws in this comment about Putin respecting him because he went through a phony witch hunt.
It's almost surreal.
Right.
He's comparing a political scandal to a full-blown war.
Unbelievable.
Talk about a disconnect, and then he circles right back to those rare earth minerals, convinced that's the answer to everything.
Like a broken record?
I know it's this strange mix of idealism and self-interest. You know, he wants peace, but he also wants that deal, and he seems to think that securing those resources is the key to achieving both.
But Zelensky is not buying it.
No.
He needs more than vague promises and resource deals. He needs the U.S. to be all in to stand with Ukraine unequivocally.
And that's where the real frustration lies, that gap between what Zelensky needs and what Trump is willing to give.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment in the meeting. You can almost see the hope draining from Zelensky's face.
Oh, absolutely. He's starting to realize that the U.S. might not be the unwavering ally he was hoping for.
Ouch.
And then a reporter asks about Poland and the Baltic states. You know, they're clearly worried about Russia, too, looking to the U.S. for reassurance.
This is where those wider implications become clear, right?
It's not just about Ukraine anymore. It's about the potential domino effect of Russian aggression.
Exactly. The whole region is on edge.
And Trump's response is kind of interesting. He reaffirms his commitment to NATO, but also says that Europe needs to step up and do more.
What do you make of that?
It's tricky, right? On the one hand, Europe does need to take more responsibility for its own security. But on the other hand, they're facing a real threat from Russia, a threat that's been emboldened by the invasion of Ukraine.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
And then comes the bombshell question. Would the U.S. commit troops to protect the minerals deal if Russia interfered?
Whoa. Talk about putting Trump on the spot.
Right.
What did he say?
His answer was pretty vague. He said he'd study it, take a look, the classic non-answer.
Typical.
He's not ruling it out, but he's not making any promises either. And it all circles back to that same question. Is this really about Ukraine? Or is it about securing those resources for the U.S.?
Yeah. It's hard to say for sure.
So as this part of the meeting wraps up, what's the overall feeling?
I think we're seeing the limitations of traditional diplomacy play out in real time,
It is messy.
There's this fundamental disconnect between Zelensky's desperate plea for help and Trump's focus on transactional deals.
And it leaves a lot of questions hanging in the air.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. Let's take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll analyze the final moments of this incredible meeting and try to draw some larger conclusions about what it all means.
Okay, we're back. And I don't know about you, but my head is still spinning after that last segment.
I know, right? It's like, where do you even begin to unpack all of that?
Seriously. Rare earth deals, clashing egos, the weight of an entire war on their shoulders. It's a lot to process.
What really struck me was how this meeting just lays bare the limits of diplomacy when you have these completely different worldviews colliding.
Oh, 100%. It's like Zelensky's pleading for his country's survival.
Right.
Right. And Trump's over here speaking the language of business deals and profits. It's almost like they're speaking different languages.
And that disconnect just gets amplified by all those personal dynamics we talked about, The tension between Zelensky and Vance, Trump's need to be the alpha in the room, it all gets in the way of actually finding some kind of common ground.
It's almost painful to watch at times. So I guess the big question is, what does all of this mean for us? Like for us, the listeners, what can we actually take away from this raw, unfiltered glimpse into history?
Well, I think it highlights the importance of empathy, It's so easy to get caught up in our own little worlds, our own interests, but try to imagine what it would be like to lead a country while it's being invaded. Zelensky's perspective is a powerful reminder that there are real human lives on the line, and those stakes can't always be measured in dollars and cents.
That's such an important point. And it also makes you wonder, what if they had found some kind of common ground? What if they'd managed to bridge that gap? Would things have played out differently in the war? Would the U.S. have been more involved from the start?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's something historians will probably debate for years to come. But at least this meeting gives us some valuable insight into the factors that were at play, The clashing personalities, the whole resource angle, the global pressures. It wasn't just about signing a piece of paper. It was about the future of Ukraine and maybe even the world order.
Okay, so we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, right? The ethical dilemma that keeps popping up, those rare earth minerals. I mean, they're essential for so much of our technology. But is it even right to profit from a conflict zone like that?
Oh, man, yeah, that's where things get really complicated. There's potential for both good and bad, On the one hand, those resources could be crucial in helping Ukraine rebuild. But on the other hand, they could also become a source of exploitation if they're not handled carefully and ethically. There are no easy answers there.
It really makes you think about how we consume technology. you know,
Mhm.
where all those materials come from and the human cost behind them. Maybe that awareness is part of the takeaway here, that even something as simple as our phones are connected to these incredibly complex global events.
Right. It kind of forces us to confront that complexity head on. It's like a stark reminder that we're all interconnected and our choices have these ripple effects that go way beyond what we might imagine.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm honestly left with a sense of awe, like to witness such a raw, pivotal moment in history. It's pretty humbling.
It really underscores the importance of understanding history, not just as dates and facts in a textbook, but as a series of human choices, human interactions with real lasting consequences.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. We've uncovered so much today, from the palpable tension in that room to those broader global implications. But we've also left you with some questions to ponder. How might this meeting have shaped the course of the war? What does it reveal about the relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine? And does the whole rare earth element change how you view this conflict? We hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective and maybe even inspired you to explore some of these questions further on your own. Until next time.